everybody, and welcome everybody that's live online. This is our first live streaming of this evening, so I'm excited to be reaching people since I can't see, and technology is a little bit of a hiccup, so by the time we get to an activity, for those of you that are online, that are live streaming, I'm hoping to have been able to interact with you. So feel free to type in comments or questions online, and like I said, we're gonna pray. This is the first time with this technology, and with technology, it's always fun to see how it's going to work. So, for those of you that haven't been here before, this is our third evening of what I've so lovingly called Wealth Are You. You can call it Wealth 101, the biology of wealth. Basically, it's all about wealth. So it's 52 weeks, and it could go longer depending on how exciting it turns out to be, of every Wednesday night, and some of you that are in another country, it might be Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday morning, of just completely focusing on what creates wealth and abundance. And I want to start out this evening by just coming up, bringing you up to speed. If you haven't been here for the last 2 weeks, we've been talking about this subject. We've been doing some activities around the subject, and at the end of the conversation, it's always about how you implement it and put it into action, because there's lots of theory about lots of things. And I was thinking about this afternoon, that when we're children, we go to school and they teach us something, and then we go home and they give us this thing called homework, right? And homework, I like to call it play work in my vernacular, because homework really has a bad connotation to it. It sounds like work and drudgery. And the object of having homework is so that you can practice what it is that you learned. So to be effective in whatever we do here, it's important that you take the information and then practice it, and I will give you some guided information about practice. So with that being said, we've got people that have come for the last couple of weeks that are doing some of that practice, and so I'd like for you to share a little bit of what your insights, your ahas, your epiphanies, your resistance, whatever happens for you in the last couple of weeks with everybody here and everybody that's around the world. And in this particular case, I'm going to see if I can do this without a lot of feedback. You get to come up here so that the people on the camera, don't worry about the camera, can hear what you have to say. So I just want to have a couple of you come up and share. And Mark, would you like to share? Is that why you're bending down and not avoiding my eye contact?
Sure.
Come on. Just, you can get over here.
So, can I sing some songs?
You sure can. Sure.
No, I'm just kidding. Well, Devlin and I, this last week, to be honest, we tried, but we just couldn't make contact. A lot of electronics was going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But we gleaned from each other that we both had a good week.
Good.
So I think that was good. And I continue to stay in contact with Jeanette, who's my support person from the first week.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I'm moving in the right direction with her assistance. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's great.
That's it. Anything else?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I just want to make a comment that for those of you that are new in the room and just joining us online, that each week you're going to get a prosperity partner. And this is an opportunity for you to stay focused on whatever the topic at hand is for that particular week, because it's so important to build community that will encourage you, that will support you, that will listen to you, that you can share what's going on with you. What I've discovered after years and years and years of training, that the best and most effective way for you to get to where you want to go is to do it with somebody else. Being the lone wolf, as much as wolves are fantastic, even they do what, Meryl?
They work in a pack.
They work in a pack, right? They work in a pack, and they do, they support each other. And it's really very interesting, because the whole idea of a lone wolf is a wolf that doesn't have a pack, that's lost. And the lone wolf is always looking for a pack. So you'll get a prosperity partner, and I'll share with you online how we're going to do that a little bit later. If I could get one more share about how your week is going. You want to come up?
Yes, I will. I don't know quite what to say. It's been a really good week.
Good.
I've had some really great revelations that a lot of the information you're putting out there is kind of sinking in and going, oh, I didn't know that. So stuff is happening, but it's still kind of intangible at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Okay. Good. We do need to pop it in that little
Yes.
hole in that thing, that way I can just stay here. So that's very true, that it's intangible, that it's sometimes it has to, as Jeanette said, sink in a little bit, because that comes from the practice. So for those of you that this is your first night, I recorded both evenings. The first evening is on YouTube, the second one I should have up this week. So you can see them. I recorded them myself, and I'm not promising that the quality of the video is stellar. What's really important is the information that you glean from it. And it'll give you some of the foundation that brings us all to this place, because I talked a lot about science. Tonight I want to talk about more of the biology and how money itself works, because we've talked about wealth and we've talked about the definition of wealth, and wealth is we've come to know that the definition of wealth is the condition of well-being, prosperity, and happiness. And there's still going to be this money conversation that happens in there. So for tonight, what I'd like to do is take the moniker of a wealth whisperer for you. And I love that term, and Jeanette, who is just standing up here, is the color whisperer. And I love that term because it implies a certain communication that an individual has with the topic that they happen to be working with. So a gentleman by the name of Frank Bell, you may have either seen or heard of a book and then a movie called The Horse Whisperer. And he sort of coined that phrase. And that phrase has this sense that you have an uncanny, developed sense of how to communicate or how to understand a particular topic. In his case, he had this uncanny ability to communicate with horses. Well, actually, he wasn't Dr. Dolittle. He didn't really talk to the horses. He understood how horses wanted to be communicated with. There's another great whisperer called the dog whisperer. His name is Cesar Millan. I've never owned a dog. Well, I think I might have owned a dog once, but dogs are not my thing. And this gentleman does dog whispering activities, and basically what he's doing is working with the people. He's working with the people, the clients or the people that own the dogs, in order to have a better communication with their dog, because they come to him with dog problems. So the idea behind both of these gentlemen is that we aren't communicating very effectively with these horses and with these dogs. In Jeanette's case, people aren't communicating very effectively with their colors. So you're not getting the maximum benefit or the results that you want. So you get horses that don't perform, and you get dogs that are, they bite or they growl or they chew or whatever they do. And in both of those cases, the concept behind both of those gentlemen is that this power over, or this trying to make them do something, doesn't work. And guess what? It works the exact same way with money. That there is a relationship that you have with money, and if you understand how to communicate with it, because it's just a form of energy, and we've already established that in the last 2 sessions, that this relationship with money is basically the same exact kind of relationship that you have with anything else in your life. So, think about this. What if money was a person in your life? Just imagine for a second that money was a person and you gave it a name. Would you want to be in a relationship with someone that tamed you or treated you the way that you treat money? So I want to dive into that for just a little bit about how we actually behave around our money. Because we treat it like it's a second-class citizen in a lot of cases, or we treat it like it's going to leave us. So in either one of those cases, if you have a relationship with someone, especially a significant other, if you're constantly worried, I know you've never had these relationships, but if you knew somebody that had a relationship with somebody that was constantly worried that they were leaving, right, or they're cheating on them, or any facet of them leaving or exiting the building, it's a very one-sided relationship. So what's important here is that you really begin to understand how money wants to be treated, what it likes in its life, and then begin to do that. So understanding the heartbeat of money, this unspoken conversation that revolves around money, and then you begin to get the results that you want. And it's not magic, it's just a different perspective. And a lot of times, because I've worked in New Thought and, I've taught The Secret before The Secret was The Secret, and all of these ideas and principles about positive thinking and about creating your own experience, these are sometimes very ethereal terms, just like you were sharing, that they haven't quite landed for you yet. And understanding that money actually has a personality will give you a different way and a different way to grasp how to respond and treat it. And I sometimes perceive that people have identified money very similarly to a fairy tale. So I want to tell you a little fairy tale. A fairy tale, and one of the most standardized fairy tales, especially in our society in the Western United States, the Western Hemisphere, is the story of Cinderella, right? So all women have heard the story of Cinderella. As a matter of fact, we put a lot of pressure on you guys to be Prince Charming. And the fact is that that's a lot of pressure, believe me. Because that fairy tale is not the reality of what shows up. So in this fantasy, this fairy tale of Cinderella, we don't really see the whole picture of what's going on. Because the story is told as this girl, she's been abused or put upon by her stepmother, and her greatest wish is to get out of this servient position and move to greater places beyond where she is. And she finds this prince, and then basically the story ends there. They go to the ball, the slipper gets lost, and they live happily ever after. Now, in that story, you don't hear about what happened on Super Bowl Sunday with that prince, right? He was sitting there kicked back in the Royal Palace watching the Super Bowl. She can't get him to do anything. He's not taking out the garbage. She's not paying attention to him anymore because now she's got 14 kids running around. And the fact is that you don't really get this whole picture of the story of what really happens in that fairy tale. We just know that there's a story. So wouldn't it be interesting if you looked at this and said, well, this is sort of a unique proposition that's been delivered to women particularly, but men, you're part of that story because you're the ones that have to be the Prince Charmings, that we've been conditioned as women to believe this story. So we're constantly looking outside for this magical experience. And men are constantly being held up to that, and of course you can't perform, so it's pretty incongruent about how it shows up going forward. And what I perceive is that money, our money fairy tale, is very much like that. Because so many people have these fairy tales about money. If only I was good enough to get, right? So you have the story of my ship's going to come in, or I'm going to win the lottery, or I'm going to marry Prince Charming, or any other version of that. So imagine what your fairy tale might be about money. So think about that for a second. What is your fairy tale? What fairy tale have you told yourself about what money could do for you if only the prince would come. The prince being money. So what do you think your fairy tale is? Give me some ideas.
Do anything you want.
You could do anything you want, right? What else?
Travel.
You could travel. What else?
Buy a new house.
You could buy a new house.
Donate time and money to organizations.
Okay. So when you think about your fairy tale around money, it's important to take whatever that idea is. I can do anything that I want. I could buy a house. I could give to charity. And translate that into what is it that that experience gives you. Because when we look at that fairy tale of Cinderella, or any other fairy tale, maybe it's for men, it could be being a superhero, right? Because I don't know, I didn't read comic books, but you have these fantasy ideals of these superheroes, right? They're normal people and they turn into superheroes and they can do all of these things. So we have these fantasies about our life. So what is the reality of what is it that you're trying to create with this buying a new house, doing whatever I want, giving to charity? What is the energetic feeling that you're trying to get as a result of that?
Happiness, joy.
Happiness and joy, right?
Freedom.
What?
Freedom.
Freedom. What do you get when you have a new house? What does that give you? What feeling do you have when you have that?
Have to make a payment.
And if you don't have to make a payment, then what?
I get to
More
remodel.
There's more room.
There's what?
There's more room.
And what does more room give you?
Security.
And what is that security? What is that about?
Pride. It's
Pride of what?
It's the experience of well-being.
It's the experience of
Comfort.
well-being, right? It's comfort, right? So, I don't know why this just came to me as you're hearing this pride, this well-being, and this comfort. The first thing that flashed in front of my eyes, because this isn't in the script, is those Febreze commercials, right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I was like, oh, there it is. So in a Febreze commercial, they're blindfolded in a mess, and what are they doing? They're fantasizing and believing that they're someplace else. I was like, wow, I didn't know Febreze was going to be my example tonight. That's exactly what it is, though. This is what it is. This is what we do. This is the absolute beginning of where we want to go to have that well-being and that happiness and that freedom and that sense of joy that comes with being prosperous and abundant. The money doesn't come first, the feeling comes first. So it's about that fairy tale that you can actually create your own fairy tale however you want. The thing is that you have to do it from a place of real life, because Cinderella and Prince Charming, they actually have a television program on in America now called Once Upon a Time. And okay, it's a guilty pleasure of mine, I'll have to admit it. But the thing is that apparently they have good ratings, so they haven't canceled it yet. And the reason I think people are watching it is because it's really debunking the mystery of a fairy tale. Because the fairy tales, we want to see what's behind the curtain, right? And the curtain is Prince Charming isn't watching the Super Bowl, but it's a juxtaposition of them being storybook characters in real life, and what the trials and tribulations are of living in this real life. And perhaps that might be just part of the desire for us to acknowledge that it isn't about the prince and the ball and the slipper and living happily ever after. There's actually this place where we have to show up and live our experience. And with our experience, imagine that money thought that you were beautiful and beckoning and enticing and loved to be around you. That's a whole lot different feeling than the feeling that most of us have around money. And so looking at this relationship, taking it out of the fairy tale context, it can still be your Prince Charming and identify it as such. The problem is that with the Cinderella fairy tale, the reality isn't there. So, what would the reality look like if it was a person? If money was a person and you were married to money, what kind of a relationship do you think that you have right now? Do you need therapy or a divorce lawyer? Because all good relationships are based on trust and love and communication and respect and attention. And what happens is that with money, if we don't look at it as a relationship, and you can actually define it in your own world, you can give it a name, you can give it the name of Bob or Cinderella or Prince Charming or whatever you want, but begin to look at money as a person. How do you treat it? And what happens in our relationships, especially when we are having a dysfunctional relationship with money, is we treat it disrespectfully. So let's think about this. Money, let's say that money, you're married to money, and money was your Prince Charming. And in our story, Prince Charming lost the castle, lost the jewels, lost the kingdom. He's poor as a church mouse now, right? So, did you really love Prince Charming because of all of his wealth? Or did you love Prince Charming because of the love of what it could do and the potential that it had? So, let's just say that you decided that you didn't want to be hanging out with Prince Charming anymore because he doesn't have any more money. Because that's what we do with money. As soon as it gets scarce or it's not the way we want it to be, the first thing we do is we start to treat it differently. Badly, as a matter of fact. So we stop communicating with it. We stop paying attention to all of the good things that it's doing. We stop valuing it because it might not be as much as you think it should be. But if you think about this from the perspective of how you treat people, if you were treating people like you treat money in a lot of circumstances, when it's not performing the way that you'd like it to, how much is that really unconditional love? And I'm not saying to love and idle money. I'm saying that money is a very special value in your life because it creates the wealth and the well-being and the abundance and the prosperity that you want to be wealthy and happy. But the first thing that goes is, well, sorry, you're not doing it right. And so you think about relationships. How does that work when things start to fall apart? Well, communication goes out the window. And part of these Wednesday nights is so that you can begin to remember how to communicate with money. And remember how money wants to be understood. Because just by being here, you begin to see that money wants to be understood in a very specific way. And the more you treasure it and value it, the more it wants to hang around, just like any other person in your life. Because if you stop paying attention to your partner or to your friends, they kind of want to leave or find new friends. And being disrespectful of our relationships then gives us that reaction of being disrespected in return. So I want to start with this foundation that this is a relationship, and that the practice this week will be to begin to look at your relationship with money. How are you loving it? How are you communicating with it? How are you paying attention to it? How are you valuing it? And really, the core of this activity will be how you're valuing it. And one of the most important things about valuing anything is appreciation. So when you value something, you appreciate it, right? And when someone values you, they appreciate you. So if you are being appreciated by somebody, tell me some of the qualities that you feel when someone's appreciating you.
Love.
Love, what else?
Openness.
Openness, okay? So if someone's valuing you and you feel like you're being appreciated, Give me a sense of the feelings that you sense are coming at you.
Attention,
Attention,
respect,
respect,
That's what I was gonna say, respect.
respect, Meryl?
Honesty?
Honesty. That's a good one.
drive, connection,
Okay.
electric.
Electric, right? Okay. So all of these qualities you can begin to practice with money, and I want to take it out of the context of the greenbacks that come in for you, okay? Because money can come in a lot of different forms. And for those of you that have been at some of my workshops, you know an exercise that I do, and I don't know if I'll have time to share it tonight, and that's not the issue. The issue here is that you want to begin to acknowledge every single minuscule bit of value that's coming in. Every single bit of it. Because this is where, when you begin to do that, it expands. So I want to give you an example of, you can do a couple of things. I think we have a tree that I made back here. It's a $1.99 tree. I call it my money tree. We can do it that way. You can do it this way for yourself at home, or you can do something as simple as I did, and it's just keeping track. So I'm going to give you 3 different ways that you can do this. We can do the money tree, and you can write little things on a piece of paper and put it on the money tree, and I'll bring it out after our exercise so that people can see it on the camera. You can take a jar. See this jar back here? There's a glass jar, something that size. And that is going to be your collection vessel for good. Or I did a cork board and took construction paper and cut out a trunk, and then little pieces of paper little thin pieces of paper to represent leaves. And every single time something good happened, so the tree was pretty full and in a very short amount of time. But every time something good came, I wrote it up there and I put it up. So it's a visual. And this, I started that process at a time when I was flat broke. Flat broke. I mean, people tell me they're broke all the time. They don't know broke like I know broke, okay? Seriously. I'll tell you about broke food someday. So broke is broke is broke. And I really was like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling to find something that's good coming in. And I had books, and I didn't have a bookshelf. Now this is after I've grown up past 20, all right, you know, before you had the bricks and the wood and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just need something to put my books on. So I went down to Home Depot, and I was looking for something really inexpensive that I can make a bookshelf out of. And they actually had sawdust like material that they'd thrown into a bin. And the guy was actually going to charge me $1 for it. I said, please, can you just give it to me? And they gave it to me. But when you're broke, it doesn't matter if you're broke right now or you're not. It's just a matter of really paying attention to good. I wrote that on one of my little leaves and put it up on my tree. I got free wood from Home Depot. Now, mind you, it was trash to most people, but it was good for me. And this is where I find that most people really miss the mark about blowing open their abundance, as they are not identifying all of the good that's already flowing in. It's coming in droves, you just don't notice it. And the more you notice it, the more you pay attention to it, the more you put focus on it, the bigger it gets. So I have one of my clients that started this activity, and I would encourage you to do this this week as well. They did a study a number of years ago, and it's been so long since I read the study, I don't remember what the actual study was done, who it was done by, but they took a group of people in New York, and they said, here's a group, 5 or 6 people here, 5 or 6 people here, and they told them to go out, and one group they told, go find loose change. And the other group, they told them, go find as much trash as you can to observe all the trash on the streets of New York. And it was absolutely phenomenal that the group that was looking for loose change, came back with $1,000 in loose change. And the group that was looking for trash brought back bags of trash. And they asked them, so, did you guys see the ones with the trash, did you see any loose change? We didn't see any loose change, we just saw trash. These people over here with the loose change, do you see any trash? No, we didn't see any trash. We only found loose change. And you know, it's so amazing. It's just, what are you putting your focus on? So this week, look for loose change. And I have a client that did that, because not very many people will do this. I give all kinds of opportunities and activities that you can do, and if you don't do them, nothing happens. It's like, oh, that sounds like a great idea, whatever. And the fact is that if you do them, stuff happens. She got a big pile of, she said, I was gonna do that, I just wanna see what happens. And then she got a big pile of money, it's just sitting. Because every time she did that, she put it in a particular pile. So do that for yourself. Because all you're doing is looking for abundance. Pennies, dimes, and start turning in $5. And it's all about training your biology to see what it is that you want to see. So, the first thing that is really important is to begin to look at how you have an opportunity to express this appreciation for everything that's going on in your life. I told you there's a couple of ways that you can begin to look at value, and yet even that can be diminished by, oh my gosh, I have to pay the bills, I have to do the laundry, I have to do the dishes, and this angst that we have with our lives really repels our own abundance, because we're not paying attention to why we could be absolutely grateful and appreciative of certain things that are going on in our daily activities. So that's the first activity that I want to do tonight, is just for you to even think about how the day went for you, the day of the last day. And as I was getting this exercise ready, I thought, oh my gosh, I haven't really been out because I've been here looking at the technology and in front of my computer, and I thought, well, if I'm going to ask somebody else to do that, I have to do that myself. So what is it that I could be grateful for? And one of the things that I am grateful for as a result of creating tonight's event, and some of you that are here have heard this story, I put this on Meetup twice, or actually it's been 3 times now. And Meetup was rejecting my group. And all of that being said, I was a little frustrated at first, and what I now know is that I'm so grateful for the anxiety that caused me around Meetup, that I created this online live streaming, because I decided to do something different. I decided to look at it differently, and to be of service to this many people, I think is, it makes me overflow with joy, because I didn't know that I could reach this many people with an experience like this, and I was limiting myself with Meetup. And as much as the Meetup has now resolved itself, I think, and there should be more people live, the opportunity was there, and it was because of something that looked like it wasn't going my way. So what I'd like for you to do is get in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll put you in this group over here. We'll put 4 people over here. Meryl, if you want to go up there too. What I'm going to have you do is get in groups, and I want you to come up with 5 things that you're grateful for, and not your typical grateful. So I'm going to give you this, it's called your prosperity scrapbook, and you can do this throughout the week. But some of these thank yous are the means to clean after a party, because it means that I'm surrounded by friends. So the taxes I pay because it means that I'm employed or I'm making a lot of money. What I want you to do is take something that's going on in your life right now. I'm doing the dishes because I have enough to eat. One of these says I am overweight, and it means I have an abundance to eat. So that was my mantra for today. But I want you to come up with 5 for each one of you in the group and share with each other about something that looks like it's not going your way, and then turn it into this grateful mantra. Because the fact is that when we begin to shift, we're gonna shift all of it. We're gonna shift seeing for abundance, we're gonna shift seeing for our own value, and we're gonna shift how we're looking at things right now. Because one of the biggest components of abundance and wealth is gratitude. Unfortunately, I've seen too many people share how to do gratitude lists, and they're not very deep. It's kind of like, well, I'm grateful because I have a house, or I have a job, or, that stuff. And I want you to really get deep tonight. I want you to begin to look at, wow, I'm grateful that I have to pay the Sears bill because I have this amazing refrigerator that came as a result of that. Or I've got great ski equipment. Or I'm paying the electricity bill that's warming myself so I'm not freezing at night. I want you to really get into something that's bugging you right now, that you can turn it into a gratitude experience. Okay, has everybody got that?